Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Miranda Quigley and I am on a weight loss journey, and I thought we would do a little bit of a different video today. Instead of running around the house like crazy or going to the gym or cooking recipes or showing you my beautiful fat puppies, I thought that I would just take a few minutes to pause and breathe and share a little bit about my weight loss journey, where I've been, where I've gotten to, and what are my goals and my aspirations. And just kind of share with you a little bit of my story. So I guess we can start way back at like the very beginning. I grew up with two older sisters, my mom and my father, and growing up I remember, like, I don't want to insult my parents by saying we didn't value health, but in a sense it really felt like I did not grow up like knowing what a balanced meal was or a nutritional meal. All I knew as a kid is that we ordered a lot of KFC and we ordered Chinese food, but as long as our Chinese food had a little bit of broccoli in it, and as long as we had a little bit of coleslaw from KFC on our plate, we were good for vegetables. Which now in hindsight I can just see how distorted that view of healthy eating was by thinking that a side of corn was a good enough amount of vegetables for the whole day. And so I grew up not really knowing like what is healthy foods, what are unhealthy foods. We just kind of ate a lot all the time, and we ate what was convenient and what was cheap for our family. So growing up I was oftentimes the heaviest female in my class, if not the heaviest student in my class. I remember getting on the scale in like 6th grade and weighing about 130 pounds, and I'm only 5'4" and I'm fully grown. And so at the time, being in 6th grade, I was definitely smaller than 5 feet, and still weighing 130 pounds was heavy for somebody my size. And I was always bigger than my peers in my class. I even remember being in 5th grade and being called Miss Piggy. I remember that name like floating around the class, and I think because I'm the youngest in my family and I've handled being picked on pretty well, I did handle it okay. But I remember being called Miss Piggy and then going home and kind of taking a step back and like looking into the mirror and, you know, turning to the side and sucking in. And I was probably 10 years old, and no 10-year-old should have this distorted view of themselves, but I started dealing with body image issues and insecurities at a really young age. And so I went through middle school and early stages of high school, continuing to grow, continuing to gain weight, and knowing that I was gaining more weight than my friends, but not knowing what to do about it. I was never athletic. I never played like lacrosse or basketball or soccer or anything like that. I always leaned on the side of performing arts. So like I would sing and do drama and musical theater and things like that. But I did swim a little bit in high school, but I never did like athletic training. I bowl a 45. To say bowling was my sport of choice would prove further that I am not athletic at all. I was never athletic, so as I grew older I kept gaining weight. And I remember being in high school and being in show choir, which was like the most activity I'd ever done, like dancing during show choir, which is really funny because it's like it's not even like hardcore. Zumba is significantly harder than show choir dance. But I remember being in high school and just kind of realizing that I was bigger than everybody else and I wanted to do something about it. And so I started Googling like how to lose weight, how to get skinny. And I remember coming across these things called Visalis shake. I was working at the time. I actually got a job when I was 15. And so pretty much my whole paycheck was going to these Visalis shakes. And I'm not knocking Visalis at all. If you do shakes for meals, more power to you. I know from my personal experience, substituting my meals for 90-calorie shakes that were like this big and that tasted like poop, like vanilla poop, was not worth it for me. But I actually did that for my junior and senior year in high school. I remember like going to school with a thermos and drinking, you know, 6 ounces of liquid instead of having lunch just because I wanted to lose weight. And it actually did work. I ended up losing about 20 pounds in high school, and I was the fittest. And by fittest, I don't mean fit because I really didn't work out more than just running, but I was probably the smallest I'd ever been in high school, and people noticed and people started treating me a little bit different. And I felt for the first time good about myself, really being around my friends. I remember not feeling like the biggest girl in the pictures anymore when I took pictures with my friends, and I wasn't so long-winded going upstairs and different things like that. And so I felt good in high school. And then after high school, I remember a bunch of people telling me like, be careful in college, you're gonna gain the freshman 20 or freshman 15, or the reality of it is that you gain freshman 40 because all you do is eat out, which is funny because college students literally have no money like me, and yet all I did was eat out. I worked at Four Rivers at the time, and I'm not saying that Four Rivers makes you gain weight, but if you work there and you eat there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, chances are you'll gain weight, and my chances were true because I gained a lot of weight. And so after high school, I got down to 140 pounds, and then right when I got into college and I was working at Four Rivers for a while, I began to gain more weight. I was eating out, I was hanging out with friends, and I ended up gaining about 15 pounds within about a year. And that was when I started dating Quigley. And when he and I dated, I knew that I was bigger than what I used to be. And I was aware that I was gaining weight, but I didn't really want to notice. And so I just kind of put it on the back burner. And so we started dating, and everything was marvelous. And we were having so much fun, and lots of Jeremiah's dates, and we would go to like Melting Pot and, you know, excuse me. You know, we were just happy, and I didn't really notice as we kept going. And then we got married, of course. On our wedding day, I weighed about 165 pounds. So I graduated high school at 140. I started dating Quigley at 155. And then when we got married, I had gained about 10 pounds in about 2 years, which isn't that much, I know, but I'm only 5'4", and I know that my body is small, and so 10 pounds makes a difference emotionally as well as physically. And so I gained that weight. And then after we got married, there was kind of a wake-up call for us, one that was way more than I expected. So we had gone to this water park, and it's called Wet n Wild. Unfortunately, it no longer exists. Rest in peace, Wet n Wild. Rest in peace. And at the time, and I'm pretty sure it's like this at all water parks across the board, but at the time, in order to ride a ride that had like, you could fit 4 people on a raft or 2 people on a raft, if you were gonna ride one of those rides, everybody had to stand on this scale, and if the light turned red, you couldn't ride it because somebody was making it too heavy, so you'd have to like split the group up or, you know, whatever. But if you got a green light, which was normal, then everybody could ride the ride. And I have lived in Central Florida my whole life, and I have never, ever, ever had an issue with this before. And then one day, Quigley and I went to Wet n Wild with some friends, and for the first time ever, we stepped on the scale, and it was red for the 2 of us. And I remember thinking, how did this happen? How is it possible that we are too big to ride a ride together? That's never happened before in our lives, and it just devastated me. We got home that night, and I remember both of us feeling really defeated and not really knowing what to do from here, but just knowing that something needed to change, because if we kept going on this path of eating whatever we want, not exercising, and just kind of living blissfully, not mindfully, that we would regret where we would end up. My dad was extremely sick growing up. He had diabetes. He was actually an opiate addict after having kidney failure 3 times. He was a chronic smoker. At one point he was in a coma, and he had TTP, and they thought he had meningitis, and then he ended up having like a blood infection and all kinds of crazy things. And I struggled with my dad's illness for 10 years. Unfortunately, he did pass away this last year, but I remember being in premarital counseling with Quigley before we got married and having the talk like, I don't want to be my mom, and I don't want to set myself up to live like my dad, where I just haven't taken care of my body and it gives up on me. So whatever we have to do to make living healthy a priority, let's do that. And everybody that I admired was up early in the mornings working out, and they were mindful and ate intuitively about, you know, having balanced meals and making sure that, of course, there's time to enjoy, you know, cupcakes and delicious fun things like that, but at the same time, you know, we're not living to eat, but we're eating to live, eating to fuel our bodies. And I remember having that talk with him before we got married, and lo and behold, 7 months after we're married, we have this experience at Wet n Wild. And after we get home, I step on the scale. When we got married, I was 165 pounds, and in 7 months, I had gotten up to 185 pounds. And I remember thinking, how is that possible? I didn't even notice. And let's be honest, I switched from jeans to leggings. My body noticed, but I didn't want to, so I just ignored it. And when we got back from Wet n Wild, Quigley stepped on the scale, and he, when we got married, was about 210 pounds, and he was up to 252 pounds, and he was just kind of in shock too. In 7 months together, we had gained over 70 pounds, and it was really intense in one moment, but that was kind of our wake-up call for us to be like, okay, something needs to change. We want to live long. We love being together. We love what we get to do. We want to live a long time, and we want the quality of our life to be the best that it can be, and that means that we need to change some things. So that night, we actually went home, we opened up our pantry, we like got rid of the chips, got rid of all the junk food, the candy, the soda, the sweet tea, and I love sweet tea. But we got rid of all of it, and we just decided from that day forward, we were gonna make big lifestyle changes to set ourselves up to eat clean and to snack clean and to just be mindful of what we were eating. And so we switched from eating processed foods to whole foods, being aware of how many proteins we're eating, how many carbs we're eating, how many fats we're eating. And for a while, it kind of consumed our world because we were just learning about all of it for the first time. But after kind of practicing out what it means to really eat clean, trained ourselves to know what we're eating and when it's balanced and what we're missing throughout the day based on listening to our body and what our body needs. And I am happy to say that almost 2 years later, that was January 22nd, 2017 that happened, our Wet n Wild. I'm happy to say that Quigley is now down to 198 pounds, so he's lost 54 pounds, 55 pounds, and he looks awesome. And then I am down to 155 pounds now, and I feel better than I've ever felt. And even though I weigh more than I did in high school, I'm not just doing cardio, I'm weight training as well. And so I know that as far as like strength goes, I'm way more fit than I was. And of course, I still have goals to get to. I have taken metabolic tests and have measured my body fat percentage to know that a healthy range is probably still about 20 pounds of fat loss away. Not 20 pounds of weight necessarily, but just fat loss. And so I do have a goal to keep going. And because we've already lost that big amount up front, this last like 20 pounds is like killer, and it's requiring, you know, more intentionality and more intensity in workouts. And Quigley has some goals and things. And so we are doing this to partner together. And I know that it's not about being skinny. It has never been about being skinny. It's about being healthy and living a long life full of adventure. And we are so excited to continue this journey together, and it has been a process and not an easy one. It is a struggle all the time, and oftentimes it looks like this, like weight loss looks like this, but big picture, I've noticed that it looks like this. And as long as it's going down, I consider it a win. Here we are, almost 2 years later, and we are feeling better than ever, and the goal every day is that we're a better me than we were yesterday. I'm the fittest I've ever been. That's the goal of every day, that I would be the fittest I've ever been and the healthiest I've ever been. Not the skinniest I've ever been, but the healthiest I've ever been. And really training myself in lifestyle and eating habits and exercising habits and making it a go-to thing every day, including it in my routine and not making it an option, but really making it a part of my daily routine and sticking to it. And so that's part of why I started this vlog, to record my daily routine and to just keep accountable to you, and so that you can follow our journey along with us. And so yeah, we're really excited to keep it going because we are all about making healthy choices every day. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I'm sorry if it was long-winded, but there's a lot to share, and I'm really excited to share it with you. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up because it sincerely supports this channel and because I'd appreciate it. Also, make sure that you click that subscribe button so that you never miss a video as we make healthy choices together, because you know we're gonna.